A quick summary of the beef industry. The beef industry in Canada is 98% run by family farms. So 61% of farms have less than 50 head of cattle, and only 23% have between 47 and 122 head of cattle. And then the rest of the percentage is made up of 123 to over 500 head of cattle. So primarily smaller operations. 44% of Canadian beef comes from Alberta and 29% comes from Saskatchewan. And between BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan, Western Canada finishes 76% of all the beef fed in Canada. For the economic dimensions of the Canadian beef industry, as of 2022, Canada produced 2% of the beef supplied in the world, which averaged over 1.1 million metric tons of beef. As a whole, the Canadian beef sector contributes over $24 billion to Canada's average GDP. These were statistics from 2020 to 2022. The Canadian beef industry creates approximately over 347,000 jobs in Canada, whether that be directly or indirectly related to the industry. And for every $1 of income made by the farmer and the workers, an approximate $6.22 is created in other sectors. The beef industry is the third largest employer in the Canadian agricultural sector. And in terms of exports done by the Canadian beef industry, in 2021, almost 70% of our beef was exported to the United States. 11.5% was exported to Japan, 4.6% was exported to Mexico, 4.5% to China, 1.6% to Hong Kong, and 7.9% of our beef was exported to additional countries. For political dimensions of the Canadian beef industry, this past summer, $12 million of a federal investment was given towards the Canadian beef industry. The money is going towards the Canadian Cattle Association and the Beef Cattle Research Council. However, this money will not be going towards the production of beef, rather the sustainability. This money will be put towards creating new innovations for producers to move towards an industry to set a self-targeted goal to reach a 33% emission reduction by 2030. Environmental dimensions of the Canadian beef industry. Some environmental impacts that come along with the production of beef include things such as soil erosion, water contamination or pollution, as well as the fact that nearly every living organism, including plants, produce greenhouse gases. However, cattle are known to generate more than other livestock. In terms of water pollution and contamination, there have recently been more government grants set up to help farmers and ranchers counteract this. Some ways in which they are doing that is closing off cattle from directly accessing open bodies of water, including rivers and dugouts. Not only does this help with livestock safety, however, it significantly reduces the amount of manure, mud, and other substances that are getting into the water and contaminating them. In terms of greenhouse gas emissions, the Canadian beef industry as a whole does not even reach the top 5 producers of greenhouse gases in Canada. However, a way in which to counteract the pre-existing concern around the emissions of greenhouse gases would be to source beef in more local settings. With the reduction of stress upon beef livestock, it also helps with the reduction of greenhouse gases emitted by them. And finally, in terms of social dimensions of the Canadian beef industry, I was unable to find very many percent-driven answers. However, I was able to find other answers. One of the largest challenges faced socially by the Canadian beef industry right now would be the producer-consumer disconnect. Only 0.15% of the Canadian population are either farmers or ranchers. We are lacking the ability to spread factual information directly to consumers and those who are unsure about what happens in the process of production. Another huge problem faced by the beef industry right now is the fact that all of our producers are aging out of the practice. The average age of beef producers in Canada is 56, with most expected to retire in the next 10 years. In order to keep the beef industry moving forward in a sustainable and positive way, we have become heavily reliant on the fact of multi-generational farm takeovers. However, with the odds increasingly being stacked against new farmers, many are opting to sell out of the practice altogether. The average farm in Canada selling for over $2.2 million, many people unfortunately are not interested in continuing on with the practice. It is both unreliable and unpredictable, as well as comes with a huge amount of work and prior knowledge needed.